All right. Getting some things set up here Wednesday night, 7 o'clock for another increased class. If you're watching live on YouTube, we're glad that you're here. It's August 2nd. And so we'll get some set up. We are going to be over here live on Zoom. I'm about to put the link in the chat. You can join us live. Love to talk to you. Love to hear more from you. Please join us. We'll get started here in just a second. Give me 1 second. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's Increase class. I'm Blake Anderson. It's August 2nd, 2023. Pumped to be here with you. We have another great discussion in store for this week's class. I will preface to say, if you are joining us late to the program in the middle of these sessions, I would encourage you to go back and watch probably the last 8 or 9 episodes, because they're all setting the stage to what we're talking about right now. We did an 8-week study on the keys to prosper. And these are the different keys, attitudes, and actions that we've got to do to open the doors of prosperity in our life, to see increase begin to come to our life. And they work in successional order and almost work like a foundation, empowering the ones to come. And so go back and watch those in the YouTube feed, YouTube at Learn to Increase. And as we finished those last week, we talked about what to do when the door won't open. Because remember, we're talking about keys that open doors of opportunity, open doors for more in our lives. And last week, we talked about what do you do when the door won't open. And if you remember, we said that there's probably 3 or 4 reasons the door won't open. It's possible that you're out of position. We talked about the door of opportunity as like an automatic door at the grocery store that won't open until you get close enough to it. And such is the opportunity that you're waiting on. If you're sitting at the car waiting for that door at the grocery store to open for you, you'll be waiting a long time. You must start walking towards it, and it won't open until you get close to it. Same as the door of increase you're waiting on. You've got to get close to it. So keep pursuing. Just because it's not open yet doesn't mean it won't when you get closer to it. Second thing is there might be a doorstop in the way that's keeping that door. We might have our foot against it. And there's 2 primary doorstops that keep the door from opening. The first is unbelief, or the belief that we're not worthy for that door to open for us. That's the same as having your foot against it. You might have the opportunity of a lifetime that's a perfect fit for your skill set that you've been praying for, trying to come through the door. But if you're standing in the way, believing that you're not worthy of it, it can't come to you. So we've got to learn to take our foot off the door by believing that we are worthy of what's next, that God has designed us in his image. We're fearfully and wonderfully made, and we're ready for what's coming next in our life. Another doorstop is when you want something so bad, you put undue pressure on receiving it, and you actually stop thinking about how bad you want it, and you start thinking about the fact that you don't have it and what it's like not to. And so you're focused on the lack. The third reason that the door won't open is if your character is not ready for what's on the other side. You see, if you were ready for what's on the other side, you'd already have it. And that's really the life that we're living. That's what we have to understand about the process of our life and the way God made us, and watch many of the videos. We have dug deep into this topic, but you must understand that you have to be an inner match for your outer opportunity. Your outer opportunity actually can't present itself in your life until you are a match for it on the inside, that your character has been built up and you are ready for it. God wants to bless your life, but if you're not ready for the blessing, it will become your curse. And I believe, beloved, that he loves you too much to give it to you in that setting. Instead, he's going to go about the business of preparing you on the inside to receive it on the outside. And to best understand that journey is James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, where we're told to be joyful when we face trials and tribulations, because it will cause us to have patience and faith. And when they've done their work, will be perfect, complete, and lacking in nothing. And what the Bible is saying is, when tough times come, understand God's answering your prayer. He's getting you ready so that you can receive it, because he wants you to be a perfect match for it. So it's not time to be upset. It's time to be excited and expect it, knowing that there's the perfect work is preparing you. So that's why the doors won't open. Oftentimes we're pursuing things that we can't seem to obtain. We're pursuing things that we can't quite touch, or it seems that we keep butting our heads up against a door that's shut in our face. And it may not mean that it's not for you. It just may mean that you're out of position, that you got your foot against it, or you're not quite ready for what you're asking for. Okay. And we'll go into the action steps now. You have to watch last week's class. We gave you some real tactical hands-on stuff to start applying to your life right now. So hopefully these doors will start opening for you, because if you start to do the right thing long enough, the result is going to be open doors of increase, and the things that you want will be given to you. Because I know that it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, to give you the things that you were created for, and to see your life and expand. Because his first instruction to man was what? What did he tell Adam and Eve after he created them? Be fruitful and multiply. And that command is for mankind. I believe that his desire for us is that we would be fruitful, that we would multiply more than just our offspring, but in our life and in our purpose. And that we would abound in all those things. And sometimes that means you'll increase financially, or with property, or with stuff, but clearly with influence, with joy, and with love. So that's why the doors won't open. But what if the doors seem to be shut? Or what if a door that was open shuts on you? That's where I want to dig in tonight, because if you're beginning to turn the keys that we talked about, the keys to prosper in your life, it's a guarantee. Increase is coming to your life. Those keys open doors for more. They open the windows of heaven so that God can pour you out a blessing. I am living proof, and I could spend hours telling you the stories of God's blessing on my life as I turn these keys. But oftentimes we find ourselves pursuing and not obtaining. And so maybe the door won't seem to open, or what happens when a door in our life shuts. That's why I want to go tonight, because you probably experienced that transition, change, things that you thought you wanted and that you thought were yours or taken from you at the last minute. or uncomfortable transitions happen and you're trying to make sense of it. Maybe you were let go or laid off, even while you were doing all the right things. How is that possible? I thought God favored me, therefore things should stay the same and be blessed. Well, what if he favors you too much to allow you to stay in a place that you don't belong anymore? Let's dig in a little bit right there. Why door shut? You see me, I got a list of 4 things that I want to go over tonight, and hopefully it sheds some light, gives you some insight. You think through your history on why doors shut, and I hope and pray that with this understanding that you'll move forward confidently, not afraid of shut doors, knowing what to do when one shuts. So we left last week talking about your character and how you must be an inner match for your outer opportunity. So it's possible that a door shuts because you're no longer the right fit for the door. You're no longer a right fit for the opportunity. Now, I want to talk about first, maybe mistakes we've made or things that we've done wrong and the door shut because we haven't done right by the opportunity. And then we'll talk about what happens when the door starts shutting in our favor. So the first thing could be, maybe you're a wrong fit because you took the opportunity for granted. Is it possible that you got complacent in what you were doing? That the job that was an answer to prayer became the thing that you weren't happy about anymore? Is it possible that you started putting your attention and focus on other things? See, when we become a wrong fit, when our character, which God has spent so much time building up for this new place, if we become complacent and we allow our character to shrink back down, remember, you've got to be an inner match for your outer opportunity. And so all the work you did to become that new person, you got to continue to do that, to stay in that place and expand through that place. But if all of a sudden you stop getting to work on time, you stop staying late, the quality of your work is going down, you're not eager to help with new projects come up, you don't seem to serve in the new way, you're not as pleasant to be around, maybe your character is, and your light's starting to dim and your character is starting to diminish. And trust me, if you fall out of fit with that opportunity, it will be taken from you. Maybe the second thing, the second reason that the door closed is through mismanagement. Similar, you're a wrong fit character, but it could be through mismanagement, that you mismanaged the opportunity. Like I said, maybe you took it for granted and you stopped cherishing and treasuring the blessing that God gave to you. It stopped being important to you. Or maybe you were a little too arrogant or confident in your ability and you didn't invite room for your other team to come. And maybe your strategy wasn't successful and you didn't make room for other people to help you. It's possible that the door shut because you mismanaged the opportunity. Trust me, if you mismanage the opportunity, it will go away. Now, I know that it's God's desire that you would continue to grow, and he'll likely give you another chance. But probably you should expect, if an opportunity is taken from you from mismanagement, that you'll be sent through another character building experience as he prepares you for that opportunity again. Sometimes we see that when someone convinces someone to let them into an opportunity they're not really ready for. Or oftentimes you might see that when someone accepts a position that maybe wasn't the best alignment for what they get excited about just because they needed a job today. So those are the reasons you might find a door shutting on you. And maybe it's your fault. Maybe there's things that you need to correct. And just remember, continue to work on your character and build yourself up on your inner man, that you'll be ready for something more and something new. But I want to spend the most time talking about the reasons maybe God's shutting the door because he's moving you on. And this is really exciting. And it's really exciting to talk about, but oftentimes it's not as exciting to live out. It can be confusing, can be frustrating, and it can really test your faith. But I want to tell you that God will often move you into new things and direct your path by shutting doors. So you might find that there's things that you're pursuing, and all of a sudden at the last second, the door shuts. And it's possible that maybe God shut the door to direct your path. I'll tell a quick story. When I started my first business, it was a construction business. I didn't even have an idea that I wanted to own my own business, but I met a gentleman who said, you should start your own business because our company really needs businesses like yours to give work to. And so I convinced a friend of mine to quit the jobs that we had, where we had more than enough work that we needed, to start our own business because we were promised and we were told that there would be work there. Now, through that deliberation process, I felt God was leading me. Up to that point, had never felt so confident about taking a step like that. And so we quit our jobs and we were ready to start doing business with this new company. Except I had one problem. That door never opened. And I find out the door was never open to begin with. It seemed to be open because the gentleman that was promising me all that work, I couldn't ever get him on the phone again. He wouldn't answer my texts, my emails, or my phone calls until I saw him about a year and a half later. And it turned out that he was purporting to be a partner in a company and he was only an employee. And he was offering work that he didn't have the authority to offer. But what was really going on there? See, what happened was God opened a door with this company to start my own business because he wanted me to start my own business, but he closed the door as I pursued it because I wasn't meant to do business with those folks. He was directing my steps in other ways. You see, when you run up against a closed door or you run up against an obstacle, it's not necessarily that something's wrong. You know, not every obstacle that shows up in our way is something that we can move or should move. Not every obstacle needs to be cursed and cast out. It's often sometimes that the obstacles that we bump into, the closed doors that we bump into, God is an opening for us, and he's actually using to direct our path and send us in the right direction. So when you bump up against a closed door that seems to be in the direction you're going, it's not the time to be upset about it. It's actually the time to look another direction because he's maybe turning you another way. You know, we read in the Bible that Jesus says that you ask and it will be given, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open to you. And he's encouraging us to pursue this better life, to pursue more in the things he's laid on our hearts. And so we're encouraged to knock on the door. And you should knock on doors that you want to open because, as he said, he'll open it for you. But what I don't encourage you to do is try to kick that door down. Don't get a battering ram and try to barge your way through it. Because if that door is not meant for you to open, it will not open for you. And you will just get yourself frustrated and waste energy and time trying to pursue something that's not for you. Because maybe, just maybe, God has got better plans than what would be happening behind that door. He's got another door waiting for you. I love the C.S. Lewis quote. C.S. Lewis said, I searched, and then I was found. And isn't that like our good Father? He's encouraged us to pursue and to search. But it's oftentimes in the searching that we aren't successful in the way we thought, but in the midst of, we're found by him. You know, in Proverbs, it says it's the glory of God to conceal a matter or hide it, but it's the glory of kings to search it out. You see, I think what God's saying in that Bible verse in Proverbs is, I hide things so that you'll come find me. But what I know about him is as I search, as I have the courage to go out and pursue, he'll be there. And maybe as I'm pursuing, some of the doors aren't opening, but don't be surprised if there's not one just waiting in a slightly different place right on time. So lastly, when the door is shut, it may be that he's promoting you. Is it possible that when a door shuts in your life, you've outgrown that opportunity? You remember, you have to be an inner match for your outer opportunity. What happens when you're no longer an inner match for your current opportunity because you're actually have outgrown that opportunity? You've become more than what that opportunity is asking for. You've actually become the inner match for something new. If you're on this journey of growth and you're on the journey of becoming more so that you might receive more, this is going to happen for you. A door will close because you will be locked out of a place that you don't belong anymore. Because by law, once you become the inner match for the outer opportunity, the new opportunity presents itself. But what I've learned by walking this journey is sometimes the door closes and we get pushed out of the current opportunity before the next one opens up for us. Maybe when the door closes, you're being pushed into your next step. You know, I think about the nation of Israel when they're leaving Egypt and they had been praying, God, deliver us from bondage. They lived as second-class citizens, as slaves in Egypt for 400 years and were longing for more and wanting to be released into something new. And think about what happened to them. The door closed and they were actually not just let go, but almost forced out of Egypt because the way God made a way for them through the plagues sent down on Egypt and their leadership. And they find themselves at the Red Sea and they have the army of Egypt that's chasing them down. That door is closing. And I would guess there's probably some people in that camp that were thinking, I don't know about this. There's an ocean here and there's nowhere to go. Maybe we should find a way they'll see if they'll let us back. But the door had closed. They were being moved on. But the Red Sea did not part until they were blocked in by the army. And I would guess there's probably even some that thought, well, maybe we should try to go around. Let's make a run for it. But they got closed in. That door was closing for them to go backwards. And it was at that point that they stayed, that the Red Sea parted and a way was made for them to move forward. Such might be in your life, that when God's ready to move you forward, you'll see that your past is closing in on you and you can't go back anymore, that the only way forward is forward. You need to know this can be clearly an uncomfortable circumstance. I think of it like birth pains. You know, when it's time for the baby to be delivered, the mother's body is closing the door and pushing it forward. You cannot stay any longer. You are being pushed because you have become a match for this outside world, and you are no longer a fit to live inside of me anymore. You have outgrown your home. You've outgrown your circumstance, and you must move forward into the brave new world, into a new opportunity to become and grow and become more. And that's oftentimes when the door shuts behind us, what we feel like. We feel the labor pains. We feel the frustrations. We feel things just don't fit anymore. And you do the best you can, but it seems to get frustrated. And maybe you don't seem to resonate with the same people, and you've fallen out of love with where you're at, because really you've become where you're going and you're uncomfortably pushed out. My final encouragement about when this door shuts behind you, when you're being promoted, is you got to understand, you know, what's hard for us to understand in 2023 is God does not communicate to us the way Amazon does. I put it in an order and I want Amazon to deliver me something, and I get an email telling they received the order. I get an email telling me it's shipped, and I get another email saying that it's out, and I get another email saying that it's been delivered. But our faith walk, we're praying, God, I want something more and I want something new. But we don't get an email saying I received your prayer and I'm going to answer it. He starts to form our steps, maybe with trials or hard times. We don't get an email saying the package shipped or you're on your way. I'm sending you through this trial so I can prepare you for this thing that you asked me for years ago. And then the door shuts and we're no longer in the place, and it's getting uncomfortable because the door of my last season closed before the door of my new season opened. And so you're sitting in this limbo or purgatory, wondering what's going to happen. Am I going to die? But you never got the email saying, if you'll just wait a few minutes, if you'll just wait a few days, something you didn't anticipate will open before you for no work of your own, but because I prepared you for it. But what God is wanting for you in those moments is the last little bit of growth as you're growing in your faith, as you're growing in your trust, as you're growing in your relationship with him, knowing that he is good and all things are working for your good because you love him and you're called according to his purposes. Because he's actually using James 1 as a perfect process to make you an inner match for an outer opportunity. And maybe, just maybe, the finishing work of your faith is the action. Because a little bit further in James 2, verses 14 through 26, James talks about the importance of having action or works to go along with our faith. And James says, faith without works is dead. And he's basically saying, if you don't act upon your beliefs, you don't really believe it. And the reverse is true. When you begin to act on something, it starts to become real. And I've lived this out in my life as God has invited me to a Jordan River moment where I must commit to the step that I'm expecting, even when it hasn't presented itself yet. When I burn the bridges, when I burn my ships and I can no longer go back, and therefore I must go forward. You see, the nation of Israel who were delivered out of Egypt, and the sea opened before them, even before they started walking, a sea opened and they were able to walk through. They find themselves out in the wilderness for 40 years as he's preparing them to become an inner match for the outer opportunity of their promised land. And they come up to the Jordan River, and it's time to cross into their promised land. And they might be fully realized as a nation as he had prophesied and told them his desire for them was. But they had a problem. The River Jordan, it was after the spring. It was after the winter snow had melted, and in the spring, and it was flood stage waters. And it wasn't something that they could cross. But God told them that if they would start walking through the water, that he would back up the water and they would cross on dry ground. But they couldn't stand on the bank waiting for it, or they'd still be there today or perished waiting for it, the way they did at the Red Sea. You see, at the Red Sea, they sat still and watched as he did it for them. But at this moment, he was inviting them to something new, but he made them commit to it. See, it wasn't until the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Covenant stepped into the water and got knee deep in it. They made a commitment. We are going to trust him and we're moving forward, that the river started to back up. And oftentimes, such is your path of promotion, that a door begins to shut behind you before the door in front of you opens. And what he's wanting for you now isn't to try to find your way back through the old door and become a person that you used to be. He's trying and longing that you would commit to the blessing and the promise that he's made to you, that you would step in to a new reality by committing to moving into that new reality. It's an exciting life that we get to live. It's thrilling. It's like a movie, really. And you're the hero of it. You're the hero of your own story. But you're going to have to trust God because he is making a way. And he's making a way oftentimes without even telling you the way he's doing it. And it will require faith, and it will require trust. And most of all, it will require you becoming someone new so that you could experience the new things. So when those doors begin to shut, quickly take inventory and make sure that you're not in the wrong. Make sure that you haven't mismanaged or taken for granted the place that you stand right now. But when the doors shut, if you're actually in the right position, they might be shutting to direct your path in a new place, and they might be shutting behind you as you're getting escorted through a new door to a new promotion. Join me next week for more Increase.